Good morning, everyone. Steve here. Welcome to this episode of Monday Morning Musings, where we are diving into the implications of why the early church believers were called the Way or the follower of the Way. We're going to talk about the first B in the sequence that I left you with last time, and that is the B of being. Who are we as a species? Who am I as an individual? Who are we as an individual? These are philosophical assumptions that are working in the background of all of our worldviews, whether we acknowledge them or not. For you and I, who come from a Western tradition, and again, these are 5 and 10-minute videos. I can't unpack the entire philosophy of human psychology and Western civilization over millennia in 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm giving you something very surface. Rene Descartes, I think, therefore I am, is the one-liner existential definition of what it means to be human. It is fundamentally individualistic. And the term that some social scientists are using, and I like to use, is atomistically individualistic. Otherwise, atomized. That the smallest part of reality, I know not technically that an atom isn't technically the smallest part, but it's a metaphor that it's not just one thing to have individual thought or individual actions, but myself as an individual is the atomistic core of what it means to exist in the universe. That worldview does not fit, does not belong in the scriptures. The scriptures are written to a communal people, a people who took their sense of identity, place, and purpose socially, relationally. So the one-liner that I would suggest that we need to get straight when we start talking about the way in terms of being isn't I think, therefore I am. It's I love, therefore I am. Otherwise, human existence is constitutionally social and relational. Without turning this into a science lesson, this has been empirically proven anthropologically, sociologically, culturally. That deeply ingrained individualist worldview is not only just a cultural presupposition, it is a fallacy. The universe does not operate that way. Now, I'm fully convinced of a Trinitarian outlook, and I appreciate what Michael Hardin has taught, that the Trinity is not the description of a thing. Rather, it is a hermeneutic through which we interpret Scripture. That's another whole lesson. But all of creation, all of nature has been structurally ordered. That the logos means to be structurally ordered. The architectural principle of reality is the logos in relationality. The Trinity itself is a integrated relationality of beinghood. One singularity consisting of relational interrelational reality. We are social beings. From the moment of our birth, now some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. I get that. We're not talking about that. But we are the collection of all our experiences. Who I am today is the summation of my history, which includes my interaction with other beings. I'll give you an example that has been undeniably confirmed through the sciences. Forests talk to each other. Trees talk to each other. It has been scientifically proven that trees communicate with each other and can detect if there's a tree in the forest that's struggling. And if it's a tree of the same species, a tree will deny itself resources so that a struggling tree can get the resources it needs to hopefully succeed and maintain life. A forest is an interrelational neural network, if I can use that, even though that biological analogy doesn't hold technically. It's a neural network of existence in context of relationality. So when we start talking about being, what kind of beings constituted the way, we need to understand it like this. Imagine a sponge, the beach, and the ocean. There's two ways that sponge can get wet. Now that sponge can sit on the beach and the wave comes in, hits the sponge gets water, and then the wave backs out. And the sponge goes, oh, I've been filled. And that metaphor is, for me, not a bad one concerning the typical Western evangelical way of explaining salvation. It's a personal transaction between me and God, and if you're a penal substitutionary atonement type, or if you're a justification theory fan, Jesus persuades God, presents his blood and persuades God not to damn us all. And then as a free gift, he puts his spirit inside us and, ooh, I'm personally saved. So salvation itself becomes an expression of atomized individuality. Now, there's another way that sponge can get wet. That sponge can be thrown into the ocean, abide in the ocean, and it will experience the same wetness, only it's a change of sphere of existence, and there are other sponges in the ocean. That sponge is no longer wet from a touch from heaven in my metaphor. That sponge is filled no longer by an individualistic infilling of the Spirit of God. That sponge is filled, it is because it has been moved into a space, into a realm where its very existence is immersed in fusion in a different order, water versus oxygen. And there are other sponges in the same universe. Now, here's the beauty of the analogy. Yes, there's a place for individual experience. That sponge experiences the ocean individually, but it's because it's been put in a new and differentiated place. And when it's there, it discovers that its very existence in that place is shared with other sponges in the ocean. That's the type of being that made up the way in the early church. Not a bunch of isolated individuals who get together to agree on Pauline doctrine, but who by a revelatory and intervention of the grace of God have been moved into a new space. And that space is called the new creation. That space is called the ecclesia, the church. So their sense of being came from not inward subjective feelings, but because of an awareness that I share in the same quality of existence as the other sponges. And our very existence together as sponges depends on us each awakening to the realm in which we've been immersed. So that's just a short version of the first B of the people who were identified as the way. I'll see you next time.